Hello ladies and gentlemen, Excellent here and welcome back to another YouTube video. Now before I just get to the video, I want to let everyone know this video has been pre-recorded maybe a week ago or a few days from its release. As this week I got a few personal stuff that I've got to attend to, okay? So this video is about aircraft which are the most requested to be reworked and the aircraft which need the reworks the most. So it's a bit of a clash between my ideas here. So first of all, we're going to look at the aircraft which need the reworks the most as of requested based off the infinite flight community. And the first aircraft that brings us to here is the A380. So let's go with Singapore Airlines. Don't really use this airline that much. So we're just going to sponk over here and let's go to Heathrow like we normally do. And we'll just bonk it on one of these gates like that. So I can just talk to you all about. Now, the A380 has had a rework thing on the infinite flight community since January 2016, where someone initially asked to have the rework. And to be honest, it's one of the most active old chats in the infinite flight community that we still have going. We can turn our qualities up a little bit because I was doing a flight earlier, so I had them on low so my iPad didn't crash. So it has about 1,752 votes. Now, if that's not a lot of votes, I don't know what is. And basically, it's people requesting that this aircraft gets a full rework. And do you know what? I can see that, and I think that's fair enough. I think this aircraft does need a full rework with regards to the cockpit, the exterior. Like, people still fly this aircraft because it's an A380. But, you know, when we look at the aircraft as a whole, it does really need a rework. And look at that. All of our passenger jetways are joining up, which I think is really cool. That's a really cool view to see. You don't really see that often. So, yeah, the A380 100% needs a rework. And everyone would agree with me here that it needs, you know, a full rework. A bit like we've just had with the F-18. The aircraft needs to be pretty much ripped apart. Now, I'm not saying the aircraft is bad. But, I mean, yeah. I don't think that's meant to happen, but it needs a full rework pretty much, and we're all willing to agree on that. So now we're going to move on to the next aircraft, which is again a giant aircraft which has been highly requested for rework. Now it's the 747s. Now I'm not too sure what 747 will get reworked. I imagine it'll be like the Embraers, but we'll go with the 747-400 because it's slightly more popular by the looks of it, and we'll go to the same gate we were just at. And this has been open since June 2018, and it has slightly less votes than the Airbus A380 rework request, but it's still got 1,337 votes, which of course both of these have a vote of my own. Now, this aircraft, it looks a little bit better than the current A380 on the exterior, I think. On the interior, I still think the cockpit is slightly better. It's a slightly newer aircraft, I think, than the A380. We'll have a look at that in a little bit. But I think the 747 should wait a little bit, and we should have an A380 rework prioritised, I think, in my opinion. Now, there are, of course, quite a few reasons to why I think the A380 needs to be reworked first, as I think it's a bit more iconic nowadays, and quite a few people know it a bit better. So the 747, what can I tell you about it? It's a big plane. It's a big plane. Now, I see it flown in infinite flight very often. I think it's preferred on expert server over the A380, but on the training and casual servers, I think the A380 is preferred a little bit more than the 747. Now, like I said, the aircraft itself is massive, and I feel like the physics on it are still slightly a little bit off from how I feel when I'm using it. So I definitely feel like the physics could be slightly better on the 747, because I feel like it's a heavy aircraft to fly, and especially on stuff like takeoff. I'll just show you now. It's a bit hard when our aircraft isn't quite ready for takeoff. We should change the weight and balance, like, so your weight and all that will be still quite a bit more, and I think the aircraft itself, it just doesn't quite feel right for me. Now, I'm not too sure if that's because I don't fly it too often. Like I said, I'm not really a massive 747 fan. We have gone off the runway slightly. We have to slightly realign with our centre line here. That was not meant to happen. So we should be able to rotate, and it just sometimes it doesn't feel quite right. And you can all see what I mean here. The fact that just getting this aircraft, it does actually feel heavy. Maybe it's too heavy, I meant to say, but it just, I don't know, it just doesn't quite always feel right, and that's just probably me, being me. But yeah, so we'll just sit on takeoff for a bit. But okay, the aircraft, it does need a rework, and you will be actually to agree that it would be great. So the features requested, so a wing flex. So apparently there's no wing flex on it. Gear tilt, a 4K cockpit with working instruments, more cockpit and aircraft views, aircraft taxi lights. Now taxi lights are something I think in-flight flight need, and they are a separate issue of their own. Cabin lights, that would be cool with a detailed interior cabin, of course. Obviously we won't have a full interior cabin, probably just the upstairs and a bit from the downstairs. Additional liveries and the tail light logo lights, which I think again will be cool. And on the cargo, they'll want working cargo doors, the nose front cargo door. Now that is something that would be cool. So I'll just get the cargo looks and I'll just talk to you guys about that, because that has actually just got me very excited. Now the working cargo door. So on the nose, you might know with some of the cargo aircraft, the nose actually opens up, and the thought of that on the that would be really cool. So yeah, you can see here they've got the lines on it, and like this actually opens up. Oh, that would be such a cool addition. I think if anyone agrees with me on that, I think that would be really cool to see that on Infinite Flight. I think that might be the next step forward. I mean, we've had a commercial aircraft coming out. We've had a fighter. I think it's time we get a cargo rework, and I think the 747-8 would be a great idea for that, especially with regards to the cargo liveries. So that is, again, the 747. Now we're going to move on to the next aircraft, which I think needs a rework, or is one of the most requested, which is the 767. Now this, again, this has had a thing open since April 2017. Now it's not as popular, you know, as like the well-known aircraft, but we'll go on the British Airways because we're at London Heathrow. It's like I said, it's not as popular as some of the other reworks being requested, but for an aircraft of this, it's, like I said, not as popular, but it's still got 1,223 votes, and I'm about to make that 1,224 because I have just voted for it. Now I will leave a link to all of these votes in the description if I remember. Like I said, I've got some personal stuff going on this week, so hopefully I remember, as I definitely don't rush this. So the 767, it's a cool looking aircraft. I think it's nice, but I think there's not even a cabin view and a cockpit view, so we just have to like zoom into it here. Now there is a way to get the cockpit view, so what you actually have to do is just use one of the free modes, and they stick you in the cockpit for you, but you've got to like adjust it yourself and that, so it is a bit annoying. But like I said, I don't think this cockpit's any worse than the 747 one. It's a bit like the A380 where the fact it's just a lot of stickers, so I definitely can see how it's like an A380 cockpit. Okay, that's weird. I thought two of the gates were going to join up. So this aircraft, now there's been quite a lot of requests, and when I look at it, someone has pretty much asked for the whole 767 lot to be added. So they want just more variants. They want 767-200ER, 767-300, 767-300ER, 767-300F, and the 767-400ER. Now I didn't know there were that many variants of the 767, but apparently all of them being requested. But I think some cool additions would be, ideally realistic, is if we were to be able to keep the current 767 as we have it. So I'd like to keep this variant, but get it fully like ripped apart like we're having with the ERJs, and just fully reworked. Now we'd get hopefully a lovely interior cockpit with this, interior cabin, sorry. Engines, the gear, like the detail on the gear here, it's okay, but it's a bit sloppy now when we compare it. Is it floating? Is this aircraft? Oh no, it's not. So there's quite a few details which should be added in hopefully a future 767 rework. Personally, I'd quite like to see this before the A380 and 747, just to give us, you know, another aircraft which isn't flown as much, but hopefully it'll get flown a lot more. But that's just me. But I'd also not complain with a rework of any of the other two aircraft. Now, the final aircraft, back to Airbus. We're going to completely ignore all of these today. I'd like to see a live cockpit in these, in the McDonald's and that. ERJs are slowly being reworked, the E175 at the moment, so we're not even going to comment on them, but we're going to go to the A340. For a start, there's only like 7 liveries to choose from, so we'd definitely like to see a few more of them come along. So it's just going to wait for this to load. So A340, we currently have one of the older variants of it. I think this is the A340-600. Now I just need to try and find the A340 rework poll, because there are quite a few votes on that as well, actually. So the current rework was for a light rework, but I think that's moved into a full rework now. Now it only has 50 votes, the one I can find, but I'm pretty sure there should be a few more votes on another one. So 50 votes is nothing in comparison to the likes of like 1200, 1600, 1700, which the other aircraft had. But I think, in reality, I think the A340, again, one of the aircraft in need here, which really needs a rework. Now, I'm being biased. I love this aircraft to bits. I'd love to see one of the other variants. I did the A340-400, I want to say. Because that one has a lot of commercial airlines which used to fly it or do fly it. I know it's an old dated plane, but at the end of the day, this is one of the aircraft which I would love to see reworked more than anything. I think this aircraft's just so unique as well, and it's just so different. So you can just see the cockpit here. Needs a rework. Is that the Pepsi can? Yeah, the typical Pepsi. And the magazine? Is that the Moz magazine? I don't know what that is. But anyway, so yeah, the cockpit would need a full rework. It'd be, again, a bit like the ERJ being ripped apart and needing a full new rework. So hopefully you will agree with this. Now, if you did enjoy this video and you think these 4 aircraft are most requested and need to rework the most, then let me know down below if you agree. If you disagree, let me know why. Yet again, these videos being pre-recorded for a little while. Very sorry about the inconvenience. And I'll see you, though, in my next video. Make sure you like and subscribe. Good night.
Find your way into this wonderland. Cross the maze, the dark, the innocent. Chase the faith, the thrill, the heaven sent. I got your